Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Glory Glory Man United podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Quinn, and Jamie is back with me again today. How's it going, Jamie?
Yeah, not bad. Thanks. Yourself? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It was a terrible week for Manchester United last week with back-to-back defeats for the first time under Ten Hag. But huge breaking news tonight, which we're about to get into, and we've got another game coming up against Wolves, one of our three home games out of the four that are remaining this season. So I'm confident tomorrow that we can get a result. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about the huge takeover news. And then later in the show, we're going to discuss what we originally planned to discuss, which was which players will we keep or sell this summer. So we'll go through the 25-man squad and we'll make a decision between us. But first of all, I have to get into the breaking news from the Times this evening. And their story is that the Glazers and the Rain Group are now willing to enter final talks with Jim Radcliffe and Ineos to thrash out a world record deal. So looking like Radcliffe is in pole position at the moment, although Mike Keegan of the Daily Mail is saying that Qatar are not going to give up just yet. Um, Another interesting part of the Times article, which I picked out here, is that known to have seriously undermined the Qatar bid is the collapse of the Credit Suisse in March, which is understood to have cost the Qatar's investment authority billions as the second biggest shareholder, and not helped the case for Sheikh Jassim, the bid leader, who had close links with the failed Swiss bank. So that's very
hmm
interesting, isn't it? So what do you make of all this, Jamie? Are you happy with an Ineos takeover, or would you prefer Qatar?
Um, to be honest, very torn. Obviously, it's very tempting to go with ownership in terms of the money they bring. Obviously, we've seen that with Newcastle and things like that, but they have got their own issues with, LGBT rights, and I know a large portion of our fan base wouldn't be comfortable with them taking over. But um, obviously, Jim Ratcliffe's got his own issues as well, keeping the Glazers in charge. I personally don't see that as a massive issue, though, as long as they haven't got a controlling stake. I don't see a big problem with that. I know a lot of the fans do, but um, I am pretty torn about who I want, to be honest. What about yourself?
Um, I think I would be happy with. I don't want us to go down the road of City and Newcastle and PSG and be state owned, particularly as PSG are already owned by Qatar. And I have uh, like if every big club is bought up by the three oil-rich states, and there some of these states are owning multiple clubs in the Champions
Mm,
League, then you start to question the integrity of the competition and potential match fixing. That kind of
exactly. Yeah.
scares me a little. And then you mentioned the stuff about women's rights and LGBT rights in Qatar. I know they're not the only country with that issue, and we have our own problems over in the West,
Mm,
so we can't always be hypocritical about it. But as they already own PSG, I would rather um, a different owner own Manchester United. That being said, I mean Jim already owns Nice, but then they're not competing at the top table the way
no.
PSG are. Um, yeah, I just there's just something about him being a billionaire from Manchester as well. I know there is the issues with him being a Chelsea season ticket holder, although he says that's because he's lived in London for many years and his children support Chelsea. Um, but yeah, I would rather us not be owned by a nation state. I don't agree with nation states owning football clubs and becoming sports washing enterprises. So I think overall, I think I'd be satisfied if any else take over.
Yeah, that's fair. I think if I had to pick, I'd probably lean the same way as you slightly. Yes, you've probably seen my tweets about Qatar. Yeah, I'd probably lean that way. Obviously, we'd have to put up with the Glazers for a few more years in some capacity over the next couple of years, but I don't see a major problem there. I think they'll be phased out over the next few years if Ratcliffe owns the club. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I understand from what I was reading the other day. I can't remember the source, but it was a reliable source anyway. I think it was either I think it might have been the Athletic. I'm not 100% sure, but they were saying that Radcliffe, as part of the takeover, will have a plan in place. or a contract in place to buy out the remaining Glazer stake within 3 years.
Mm.
Um, Maybe the Glazers are hanging on to that. The two Glazers are hanging on for that stake, for that minority stake of 20% or 18%, whatever it is, because he think that'll be more valuable in 3 years.
Yeah.
Um, but I expect by 2026 that Ineos will be the outright owners of the club. Now, a lot of people want guitar, and obviously it's for, they want to have as much money as possible to spend on recruitment. Um, and I can understand that. But I don't understand why people are so against. I mean, remember a year ago, everybody wanted Ineos to take over the club. Now all of a sudden, they're the villains, and guitar, or the majority of fans think guitar should take over. But I have to say, Ineos's turnover is 19 billion a year. Their profits are 3.5 billion a year. Man United's turnover is only 700 billion. So can someone please explain to me why I should be unhappy at Ineos taking over my football club?
Well, yeah. When you say it like that, yeah. I think a lot of them are concerned that he's keeping. Well, but they say he's in bed with the Glazers. I don't agree with that, but I think a lot of Man United fans have a problem with them staying. But I think it's smart business. I think it's just his way of ensuring that he gets the winning bid. To be honest, I think if it comes off, he's done well. I think that's the way to go. Just keep, make a deal with them and phase them out over the next few years. Yeah, it's quite an attractive bid, to be honest. Yeah, I can understand fans wanting the hundreds and hundreds of billions, write a blank check and go out and sign whoever we want. But you know, um, it just doesn't sit comfortable with me. Not quite with Qatar.
Yeah, I mean, we've sat here and complained about Manchester City breaking all the financial rules. They've been facing more than 100 charges from the Premier League. They've been charged by UEFA in the past. They've had to employ a very expensive barrister to get them off
Yeah.
those charges from UEFA. Um, do we really want to go down this path where Man United are being sanctioned for breaking financial rules? I really don't. Another issue you have with Qatar, and this is probably the main one from a sporting point of view, is that look at the mess the PSG are in
Mm.
currently. They've signed Galacticos, um, particularly the front three, and the front three do not do any work off the ball. This is why they lose to this season. They've lost to the teams in second and third place in the league, and they've still not won a Champions League in 10 years of owning the football club.
Yeah.
Um, Embarrassing exit after embarrassing exit in the Champions League, and not least to Solskjaer's Man United team in 2019. Um, and it's chaotic at the moment. You've Messi wants to leave. Neymar is going to leave. Mbappe is running the football club. God knows how much money they're paying him to stay there, because he wanted to go to Real Madrid over the last couple of summers. And the ultras turning up at Neymar's house. Ultras are now boycotting both the men's and the women's games for
Hmm.
PSG. It's just an absolute mess. And if we're going to have, Qatari state taking over Man United, we probably expect a similar type of method of running the club. Trying to buy Galacticos, neglecting youth, and that's just not what Manchester United is about. All I really want is a debt-free club, that's and the profits of the club are reinvested into the football team and the infrastructure. That's all I'm
Yeah,
asking. I'm not
exactly.
asking
Yeah.
for much, am I?
Well, no, exactly. Yeah, that's where you want it to go into the playing squad. The stadium, the training ground. Arguably, what's going on at PSG is where we've gone wrong for the last 10 years or more. Um, the Di Marias, the Pogbas. That's where we've gone wrong over the last 10 years. You want someone who knows what they're doing, and obviously that front three at PSG just doesn't work, does it? You can have one or two luxury players, but to have all three of them not tracking back, I think they've kind of saved the league again. I think they're 6 points clear now on the PSG, but they a few weeks a couple of weeks ago they were in real danger of Marseille were really creeping up behind them, and that would have been that would have been very embarrassing.
Well, they do have previous for losing league titles
Absolutely, yeah.
to teams with a much lower budget, like Monaco when Mbappe was there,
I
and
think
more
Lille have won
recently
it since.
Lille. Yeah.
Mm,
So they're not even winning that every year, and they've done absolutely nothing in Europe. They got the one Champions League final, which they lost to Bayern Munich. But other than that, I mean, on average, they tend to get knocked out in the last 16 or the quarterfinals every season. And their policy is just been all wrong. Now one of the complaints of the fans is that they never give youth a chance, and then one very obvious youth player that they could have done with, who had to go elsewhere to play football, is Christopher Nkunku.
yeah,
He'd probably be a better option than these. Well, he could play alongside Mbappe and would probably work a lot better than playing Neymar and Mbappe. Yeah, you just can't have three, super egos
yeah,
playing up front.
exactly. Yeah,
You need to have workhorses in your team, and you can have Mbappe there, and then you have to fit a more workmanlike team around him. You just can't have three luxury players, as you say. And what I'm afraid of is Man United going down that path under the Sheikh Jassim ownership. Um, and not only that, but telling Ten Hag that he must accept these signings. No, Ten Hag would probably prefer a director of football to come in that he knows and has a good working relationship with, be it Mark Overmars or someone else, Van der Sar, whoever. Um, but we could see a situation where they appoint a director of football, and
yeah,
they force all these Galacticos on Ten Hag, and then all of a sudden he's being undermined, and then he has to leave. Look, how many PSG managers have had to leave because they've been undermined by the players?
exactly. Yeah, that's where we end up going back to step one, back in full cycle, and then we end up buying all these players the manager doesn't want, and then before we know it, Eric will be gone as well. Yeah, that's the priority, is to get people in place who know what they're doing.
Yeah, and some people have said that Nice are eighth in the league on, why would we want? But I mean, Man United is a totally different kettle of fish to Nice.
Yeah,
Our revenues are much bigger. We're on a our ambitions are much different to theirs, so I wouldn't read too much into that. Um, so I'm not concerned about the don't have concerns about the Jim Radcliffe ownership as much as other people. Um, Again, my only issues is the same as yours. The Glazers remaining on for 3 years as minority shareholders, but you know, at 20% maximum, they're going to be totally irrelevant and
I
probably
think
won't be
so.
able to take dividends either. Um, but Radcliffe will very much be in charge. Like he's not going to put down billions of dollars in order
And
to
still let them have it. No, he's not going to do all that and then still let them have the, run the
voting
show, is he?
rights.
No, exactly. No, I don't see it as a major sticking point either, to be honest. I just think, he says he's a fan of the club. I think it was just his way of kind of getting in over Qatar. I didn't know that fact about the Swiss bank. Maybe that's, swayed things quite significantly, but I think it was just way of, just winning the bid, basically.
Yeah, I believe the reports tonight are saying that Sheikh Jazim's latest bid was actually under the 5 billion mark.
Mm,
Um, so Radcliffe is, like we've talked about already, is just he's given the Glazers what they want. His bid is worth more, and he's allowing them to stay. The two Glazers that want to stay, he's given them the opportunity to do so as minority stakeholders. So basically he's compromised in order to get his way, and he's stolen a march on
exactly.
Sheikh Jassim. But Mike Keegan in the Daily Mail, who's been covering this from the beginning, is saying that by no means are Sheikh Jassim and Qatar giving up at the moment. They could be an 11th hour bid, which I'm rolling my eyes here because just when I thought the charade was coming to an end, it seems like it's going to continue for another few days at least. Um, there's the both all the sources in the media tonight are saying that there'll be no announcement over the weekend, that we'll get something next week, and hopefully that'll be an end to it. The Times are saying that Ineos and the Glazers, with the Rain Group mediating, um, are in advanced talks now, and basically they're they're crossing the T's and dotting the I's, and getting close. But Qatar will try and up their offer in the next few days in order to gazump J- Jim Radcliffe's offer. But it's clear that Joel and Avram want to stay. So and Qatar are not offering that option. So I don't. I still fully expect the Ineos takeover to go ahead.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just hope now that obviously we can get to a swift resolution. Obviously, we got about a month now until the end of the season, and you wouldn't want it to drag on over the summer now. And you know, Ten Hag's in the dark about who he can't sign, things like that. So yeah, hopefully, I guess completed in the next few days. Well, start to hear a bit more.
Um, yeah, this is disgraceful what the Glazers have done. I mean, they've neglected the club to the bitter end. I mean, you have a situation where Brighton have signed two players already, on the verge of signing another one
Hmm.
this week, and we don't even
That,
know who's signing the checks yet in the summer.
yeah, is that the Hood, the third one? The
Yeah,
Dortmund yeah, Dortmund
yeah,
midfielder.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're very close to getting that deal done. João Pedro, they signed from Watford, I think, as well. And there's another one. They don't. I mean, they are the best one club in the Premier League, right, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah, they are. And they're just like a conveyor belt of talent. You know, all these Matoma and McAllister. They just seem to get them for peanuts. That's one complaint that I have about Man United is there. I think there's a lot of really good, cheap, and free deals that go on throughout Europe and South America and things like that, and we never seem to be in on those. Like the deal where, well, even the ones where it still quite costs quite a bit, but like Endrick to Real Madrid, like deals like that with the superstars that are really young coming through, we never seem to be on the free deals, the cheap deals, the deals with like the saw Chicharito come to us with like 7 million, was it? Those deals we don't seem to pick up on those anymore, and I think there's a lot of talent out there that we miss. And Brighton are
Yeah,
doing it well, very
yes, we
well.
signed Christian Eriksen on a free, but that was obvious. You know, everybody knows who
Yeah,
he is.
yeah,
Um, the deal that we should have been doing is Moise Caicedo, who went to Brighton for £4 million.
yeah, yeah. Absolute steal. Yeah, you probably go for 20 times that.
yeah, yeah,
68 million.
it'll be somewhere in the 70, 80 mark, I think. And who knows, maybe we could be in the hunt for him this summer. Obviously, going to depend on budget. But according to everything we've been told by the journalists who cover Man United, it doesn't matter who owns the club. We're only going to have
Mm.
100 million to spend plus player sales. That is because of FFP. We're very because we've been so crap at selling players for the last 10 years. FFP is now closing in on us.
Mm.
Um, but then again, FFP just seems to be optional for the likes of City
That's
and
true.
Chelsea.
Yeah, just get a slap on the wrist. Yeah, that does worry me
But
though. The 100 odd million.
yeah, we could easily squander that 100 on one player, a striker, and that would be it. Yeah,
Yeah,
so we could be relying heavily on getting people out the door. Um, he, Ten Hag might have to sign players or sell players that he doesn't necessarily want to go, but are valuable. Like McTominay, Dallo, players like that, and then hopefully the likes of Maguire and Martial would generate cash as well.
yeah. And on the flip side of that, I think he's going to have to retain players that he doesn't necessarily want as well.
Yeah, because the, I just still don't think that he's sold on Juan Bissaka, even though he's been great from a fan point of view in the last few months, and I don't think he's sold on Fred either. Um, so those players might remain because there's not really a market for them. There's not
Yeah,
like Dallo and McTominay. McTominay apparently is wanted by Newcastle. Dallo is wanted by many clubs across Europe. So if United can get 20 to 30 million for these players, then I think rather than keep them as squad players, we should just sell them. And that's what we'd failed to do for the last decade. Is whenever being offered good money for players. I mean,
absolutely. Yeah.
Lingard being the obvious example, he ended up going for nothing, and there was like 25 million on the table from West Ham at one point. It's disgraceful, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I think we've only got about I think we can count on one hand the amount of players we've sold for 25 million in our history, probably. There are many.
Well, yeah, David Beckham would be an obvious one. But under the Woodward era, the only times we made a profit was when we sold Daily Blind and Daniel James. Absolutely
Wow.
ridiculous. Um,
Yeah,
and
that's not surprising to be fair.
so just to touch on a couple of transfer stories, couple of players that have been heavily linked with United this week before we get on to who will sell or keep. So one big name who's been linked with United is Kim Min Jae, the Napoli centre back. Um, Apparently he's really keen to come to Old Trafford. I'm sure he is because he'll probably be paid more than what he's getting in Napoli. He's already won Serie A with Napoli. They had a disappointing Champions League campaign, but if United match his release clause, then I can see United getting that deal over the line. I don't think it's an absurd release clause. He's a 26-year-old South Korean international. We've seen him at the World Cup. He's been absolutely integral to Napoli this season, winning the Scudetto. I think they bought him from Fenerbahce last summer. Um, if we were able to get fees for Maguire, maybe Lindelof as well, and bring him in, that would be excellent business in my view.
Yeah. Is it right? Is this 40 million release clause and we're often to pay 53? I think I've seen those figures similar to what you've seen.
Yeah, that is what I've seen. Yeah, 40 million euro release clause, and United willing to pay 53 million to get it over the line quickly. Um, yeah, because um, I suppose that's what United might have to do to steal a march on other clubs. Because if United, I'm sure a few clubs will match the release clause. So United could not only make sure they
Yeah.
get him, but make sure they get it done early if they offer more than the release clause. So that might be a sensible approach.
Yeah. I mean,
So
if
what's
those
your views
figures
on
are
the
right,
player?
then yeah. I was just going to say if those figures are right, that seems like an absolute steal. I haven't seen too much of him. I've watched a few Serie A games. Obviously, seen him playing European football, but he looks like the real deal. He's obviously won the league with Napoli now. He looks pretty commanding centre back. Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer for 40 odd million. Yeah, 50 million.
Yeah, so we're going to be looking to move Maguire on. I mean, he's well down the pecking order now. He's below Lindelof and Luke Shaw in the pecking order at centre back.
Mm.
Um, and despite being the club captain, he's not captain the club many times this season. So I think he'll definitely be moved on. We could be offered money for Lindelof because he does have his suitors in Europe as well. If we sold both of them this summer, do you think bringing in Kim and Jay would be enough to offset that?
Yeah, I think Varane and Martinez are a pretty solid centre back partnership, and obviously you've got Luke Shaw, and if Kim came in, I think that would be enough. Lindelof is adequate. I think he's a decent defender on his day, but I think Kim is an upgrade. I definitely agree with Harry Maguire. I think his time is well up now. I do actually think there is a real player in there. It's just he's just become a laughing stock. It's just every time he touches the ball, people are chanting like, "Way!" He makes a mistake, and the whole fan base is on him for weeks. The spotlight seems to be on him all the time. I think he's just lost his confidence and can't really recover from that. I think his time is well up now. But yeah, sure. I think Shaw, Varane, Martinez, and Kim would be a solid four centre backs to start the new season. Yeah, I think that we looking really strong there.
Yeah, and I'm sure Kim will get a lot of games because Varane is made out of glass. I'm sorry to say. Um,
He is Rolls Royce defender, but yeah, he's had a few injuries, hasn't he?
yeah, too many for our liking. I think Real Madrid probably recognised that and thought at 28 was the right time to move him on. A bit like he's not quite as injury prone as Schweinsteiger, but it's not great, is it?
No,
Um,
Florentino Perez always seems to get it right, doesn't he? There's so many players where he moves on at just the right time. Funny we had someone like that at United.
yeah, and 70 million euros for Casemiro at 30 years old is an excellent piece of business as well. And they haven't really missed him. They've got Camavinga. I think he's been playing left back now, but
Mm.
also have Chouameni there as well. And obviously Modric and Kroos, the veteran pair. But I think Bellingham will probably come in to replace one of them very soon.
Yeah, what a
Um,
midfield that is.
yeah, it's unbelievable. But United, yeah, we've got Casemiro, Ericsson, and Bruno. We'll probably just that as excellent as that three are, probably missing a wee bit of energy and dynamism in midfield there. Ericsson can get
Absolutely.
tired after 60 minutes. Um, so a De Jong would probably be perfect, wouldn't it? Having him there in at number eight. But whether him and his wife want to move to Manchester is a different matter.
Yeah, he is the perfect signing, isn't he? I think he gives us exactly what you say, energy. Obviously, he can pick a pass, he keeps possession. He could be that player who, grabs the ball off the centre backs, drives us up the pitch. Um, I think he is the perfect signing, but I can't see it happening. I think his heart's set on Real Madrid, not Real Madrid, Barcelona. I think. I hope we don't spend all summer going after him again. To be honest.
Yeah, we shouldn't be going after anyone all summer. Harry Kane, De Jong, anyone. If we should make bids in June, and if we've made no progress, then we just walk away and move on to other
Yeah,
targets,
I agree.
just as any efficient football club would do. Um, so another target that I wanted to talk about was now the pronunciation might be a bit difficult here. Bart Verb Grugen, the Anderlecht goalkeeper, who's a Dutch 20-year-old who's part of the Netherlands World Cup squad. Um, Vincent Company gave him his debut at Anderlecht 2 years ago when he was 18, and he's their first choice goalkeeper now. Now, we're definitely going to be in the market for a goalkeeper, I think, given the form of David De Gea, and Dean Henderson's injured anyway, and I still don't think that he's good enough to replace De Gea. He might be an asset that we could sell, but because we're going to have to spend so much money on a forward, a midfielder, and a right back, and possibly a centre back, we're not going to have much money to spend on a goalkeeper. So I can see this happening: a cheap, young Dutch goalkeeper coming in to provide competition for De Gea. Maybe the long term, and this might make sense if the plan is to phase De Gea out next season, or De Gea, if you want to pronounce it that way, and give this young goalkeeper, a bed in time, like play the cup games, games in Europe, the odd home game at Old Trafford, and gradually phase De Gea out. So if this transfer goes ahead, then it makes sense to me from that point of view. What do you think, Jamie?
Yeah, I can't say I've seen him play to be honest, but yeah, I agree that De Gea needs replacing now. I also agree with the budget we've got. I can't. We're obviously not going to go after the Diogo Costas. The AC Milan goalkeeper Onana. Raya even might be too expensive. They're talking about 40 odd million euros or pounds or whatever. I think that's too much of a big portion of this summer's wage. So yeah, he definitely needs De Gea definitely needs competition, doesn't he? Because he seems to, even this after last week against West Ham, his place doesn't seem under any sort of threat. Mistakes are becoming, he had an absolute horror show against West Ham. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Whether he's good enough to start, I don't know. The young Dutch goalkeeper, but yeah, I think that's a sensible buy. I think an understudy for him. See how he gets on.
Yeah, they'll have to do their due diligence on this guy and make sure that he's going to be up to the task and has got a very high ceiling before we sign him. Otherwise, there's no point. There's no point in bringing in this guy just to be a number two for 5 years. Um,
Yeah,
like you say, the Milan goalkeepers, David Raya, they're all going to cost a pretty penny. Even another name that's been linked to that ever since De Gea's era at West Ham, we must have been linked with about a dozen goalkeepers at least. The latest one today was Emi Martinez at Aston Villa. Now, well, we know he's quite a character and he divides opinion, but I think he'd be an upgrade on the De Gea. I think what he does do differently to De Gea is that he commands his area. He saves penalties. There are two major upgrades right away. Um,
yeah, that's
but
for sure.
again, I would think he would cost upwards of 40 million pounds. So, what do you think about Martinez yourself?
Yeah, I'm not sure he's really what we're looking for in terms of distribution and moving the ball on the ground. I definitely agree with he commands his box, he claims crosses. Um, he's definitely an upgrade on I think I read 3.3% of crosses De Gea has stopped this season, which just seems insane. um, I do worry about the goalkeeping position, to be honest. I think it seems ever since the Seville defeat, it seems like Eric Ten Hag has asked De Gea to go long more, and towards the end of games, we just seem to be sinking deeper and deeper into our own half. And against Spurs, it cost us. We didn't get anything from West Ham. Brighton beat us. It seems to be a common theme now, and I think it's such a vital part of how Eric Ten Hag wants to set up from the goalkeeper. I think if we don't find that soon, I think that is going to be a worry next season if he can't get the goalkeeper that he wants and needs.
Yeah, I think De Gea is now out of date. All the top teams now have goalkeepers who are good with their feet, command the area, are all round brilliant goalkeepers like Thibaut Courtois, Allison, Ederson, Manuel Neuer. They all have the whole package. De Gea, the only good thing that he does is his shot stopping, and even that's starting to let him down.
Exactly, yeah. I think he's below his XG this season. I think he's 3 goals down on the expected shots he should be saving. So even, like you say, even that's dwindling now. So yeah, we definitely need to start looking for someone else. Unfortunately,
Yeah, I believe he's only in terms of all the goalkeepers in the Premier League this season, only the two Southampton goalkeepers have a worse ratio in terms of saves per shot. I think it's only 68% or something. It's very, very poor, isn't it? Um,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
What else can you say? Yeah, that's pretty damning.
I think after 12 years, it's time to move him on. He's been a wonderful servant. He's won all those Player of the Year awards, although that was as much down to how bad the team was under Ed Woodward's tenure than it was as much as it was to do with the game being brilliant. Um, but I think we should thank him for his service and move him on. I don't. There's no justification for giving him
No,
a new contract, even at a reduced wage package. You know.
I think he will get it, but yeah, that's probably down to the money we're having in the summer, our budget in the summer. It's a funny one because he's got 15 clean sheets. Looks like he might win the Golden Glove, but I don't like to criticize him when he makes mistakes and then praise others when he's got the clean sheet record. But I think that it must be down to Martinez, Varane, Shaw. It must be down to our back four because he's down on his XG. The mistakes, I think he's top of the league with Luis. Sorry to say, but although he's got that clean sheet record, it must be down to our defence.
Yeah, just like Hugo Lloris, he has 4 errors leading to goals. I think this season. That's not great company. That's not great company to be in. Um, but like you say, it just adds to the enigma of David De Gea that he could win the Golden Glove award. But like you say, I think that is also down to Wan-Bissaka, Shaw, Varane, Martinez, contributing to a very healthy defense at home anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, not
that's
necessarily in big away games.
yeah. The away record is awful.
It's
I think it's a big part is Martinez. Definitely the way he takes the ball off De Gea at the back. He's been excellent.
and we
Absolute
really
brilliant
missed
signing.
that. We really
Yeah,
missed that.
yeah,
Those long diagonal balls he plays out to Anthony or Rashford are absolutely they just break the lines and get us on their front foot immediately. Now Lindelof's okay at passing out, but he doesn't have the long range. Passing the way Martinez does, and Maguire thinks he's back in bar, but he's not. But Luke Shaw has been fantastic at centre back overall, apart from the handball against Brighton, unfortunately.
yeah.
But and is from a technical point of view, he's excellent. his passing is great. No, what I've loved about him is the way he comes to meet the ball in the opposition half. When a defender or the striker comes deep, like say Harry Kane, for example, Shaw comes with him and
Mhm.
comes to beat him to the ball. I love it when he does that. But he doesn't have the long range passing of Martinez.
No, for
Um,
sure, no.
but I think that's also Martinez missing's also contributed to De Gea giving the ball away a lot too, or giving the ball when he gave the ball to Maguire in Seville, um, that caused a major problem because Maguire does not have the technical ability, to swivel away from attackers there who are pressing him. Whereas Martinez, that wouldn't have been an issue if De Gea had given the ball to Martinez there.
Yeah.
Um,
And yeah, Shaw's been excellent at centre back, but I think we kind of miss when he just plays centre back. We then miss what he gives us at left back. Although he hasn't got a buck, he doesn't get the assists of Trent or Robertson at Liverpool, but he had really improved going forward, and he's got a great link up with the with Rashford. I think we really miss that when he plays at centre back, and obviously we're struggling to score goals at the moment, so that doesn't help.
yeah, absolutely. Malacia and Dallo are nowhere near Shaw in terms of what they bring to the table at left back, and I would be concerned about one of those two starting the cup final against Manchester City.
Absolutely.
Shaw Shaw's almost certainly going to start at centre back in that game, and if Malacia or Dallo were playing at left back, I think that's a weak link that City would probably target on the day, which I'm concerned about.
Yeah, yeah, Martinez would be a massive miss. Yeah, maybe it'll be worth going with Lindelof and Varane and then short left back, but hopefully our form picks up before then. Otherwise, that's not going to be healthy for us watching that.
Yes, I'm worried now that it could be an absolute drubbing, if things don't turn around quickly. We need City to drop off a wee bit, and we need to
Yeah,
get back to our best.
it
But we're
might
struggling
might be
for.
the game. It might be the game to stop them winning the treble. So you know,
Yeah, we're going to need to find goals from somewhere before we think about that. We've had 3 goals in 6 games. Absolutely abysmal. I mean, that's what you expect from a relegation team.
yeah, it's
It's
been coming though. I think. Rashford was picking up the odd goal, and we were winning 1-0, or 2 goals, and we were winning 2-0, and that you didn't. You could see it coming if the goals dry for Rashford or he gets injured. I didn't see where the goals are coming from, and that's how it's turned out.
Yeah, and Rashford is a major doubt for tomorrow, although Varane is back, which is a boost. So, yeah, he does have the option of playing Varane, Lindelof at centre back, and Shaw left back in the cup final, which I probably wouldn't be against. But Lindelof, you just never know what you're going to get from him. Against Aston Villa in the league recently, he was tremendous. He was
Hmm.
probably man of the match.
Yeah.
But then and against West Ham, I don't think he was very good, and against Brighton, he made mistakes. So you just don't know what Lindelof is going to turn up. He's a bit like Fred in that respect.
Hmm. Yeah.
He's,
He reminds me a bit of Smalling as well at centre back. He kind of like he had those games where he'd pocket Harry Kane or something like that, and then the next he'd score an own goal. We had one too many of them.
yeah, yeah. Inconsistency, that's been the major issue, hasn't it? But let's get on to, before we look ahead to Wolves. Let's get on to who we want to keep and who we want to sell. So we've already talked about him. David De Gea, would you keep him or sell him this summer?
Oh, it's a hard one because of the budget.
Yeah.
If we had 250 million to go out and spend this summer, I'd absolutely say sell. But I think with a young understudy coming in, I think it's more sensible to keep him, develop a young goalkeeper, and see where we are next season. At what cost that's going to bring, I'm not sure, but I just don't think we've got the budget to go and blow a lot of money on a good new keeper. So for that reason alone, I'd have to say stay for now.
So you're saying keep just because we don't have 70 million to splash on a goalkeeper?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Not exactly a ringing endorsement of David De Gea. Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
um, that's another tough one. He has his good performances, but he's such a strange footballer, isn't he? um, he kind of moves like no other footballer I've ever seen.
Probably the best defender in the Premier League at right
Oh,
back.
his 1v1 tackling is absolutely incredible. Um, maybe controversially, I think I'd sell. Maybe like get like a Frimpong type or something. I think just his style of play. I think he'd be better suited to another team. But for us, I'm not sure he's a player Ten Hag really loves, to be honest.
Here's the reason why I would keep him. In the League Cup final, when Dallo was getting destroyed by Saint Maximin, he was able to bring on Wan-Bissaka to nullify Saint Maximin. If our options are Frimpong on Dallo, what do we do in that situation? you know,
That's a good point. Yeah. The way I see it, I think at the moment we're playing a kind of like the our style of play is a kind of compromise. I don't think Ten Hag is very happy at all with the squad we've got, to be honest. Um, I would just hope and pray that he can, get some recruits in the summer and start to build that style of play that we really seen at Ajax, if that makes sense. I see what you're saying about Dallo. Um, it's a tough one, yeah. We wouldn't really have a plan B, would we? Um, yeah, I
no.
can see what you're saying. I can see what you're saying. I wouldn't be against Wan-Bissaka if he stayed. I just for the style of play, I think I'd look for a replacement.
And if Frimpong comes in, he'll be one of those fullbacks that you see from Arteta and Pep Guardiola, where they join the
Oh,
midfield, they
yeah, yeah.
push up, and you become an extra midfielder. I can see that with Frimpong. Is he very offensive fullback, and not a great defender. It must be said. So that's why I wouldn't really like him and Dallo as our options at fullback. The if
Yeah,
we
it's a
were
fair
playing
point.
against
Fair point.
if we're playing against you know uh, the best left sided forwards in the world, then we could get exposed. So if we didn't have one Basaka there, but that'll be purely Ten Hag's decision. It remains to be seen if he's changed his mind on Wan Bissaka. So Victor Lindelof, will keep or sell.
If it meant Kim coming in, I'd sell. But I think he's an adequate centre back. Yeah, if it meant Kim coming in, I'd sell him. But I think I think Kim's a gettable player, so I'll say sell.
I think the next one might be very easy for you, Maguire.
Keep, nah, sell. Yeah, unfortunately, there's a player in there, but you know, his time's up. His time's up. There's no arguing there.
Varane, it's obvious, isn't it? Keep.
Yeah, on his day, yeah, I think I think he's a brilliant character. I think he's one of those. He's been there and done it. He has his few injuries, but when he's playing, I think he's a brilliant centre back. Yeah, keep him all day.
Another easy one, Licha Martinez.
Yeah, again, keep. I think he's probably top three for player of the season, I'd imagine. Yeah, excellent passing. I think he's taken us to kind of with Rashford and Casemiro. He's one of those three players who's really carried us this season. Really, I think he's really smart by, and whoever's maybe be partnering Kim next season, pretty solid. Keep.
You know what? I seem to remember last summer that Jurien Timber was Ten Hag's first choice in terms of signing a centre back from Ajax, and then he moved on to Martinez whenever Timber, they weren't going to release him. So, based on what I've seen from Martinez this season, how good is Timber if he was his first choice?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, maybe that worked out quite well. Um, yeah, maybe we could revisit that if we can't get Kim. I think he'd be kind of versatile in playing the right back role as well. He's not quite the marauding forward as Frimpong. Maybe Timber could come in. It's another option.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that happening, but strangely enough, it's not really been spoken about so far this year.
It hasn't. No, it's
Um,
been quiet on the front. Yeah.
so Diogo Dallo,
I do like Dallo. Obviously, he's another one who has his hit and miss performances. I do like what I've seen. I think I'd keep him. I think you're going to say sell, but I think I'd keep him.
yeah, it's him because I think we could get in and around maybe 30 million euro from some of the clubs in Europe. I know he seems to be highly rated in Serie A and in Spain and probably France as well. So there would an opportunity there to raise some funds, and if we get a really good offer, then it'd be hard to turn it down. And I just think he's one of those players that's just okay at everything. He's not spectacular at anything. And I think we need more than that in that position. So Trail Malacia, it's only his first season. He's still got a lot to learn, so I'd probably keep him. Is that how you see it too?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's got potential. He's a bit raw, I think. I don't think he's done anything really, wrong to be getting rid of him. I think he's a decent player. See how he gets on. He's only young. Yeah, I'd keep him. No problem.
This is an easy one, Casemiro. Yeah.
What a player. Yeah. Don't think there's much debate there. Yeah, I'll keep him.
Do you see if it's like a really easy one? You don't really have to explain. Just say
Yeah,
keep.
exactly.
Keep.
Yeah. Everyone knows what he's done for us. So yeah.
Ericsson
Um,
should be an easy one.
maybe well, I'm not going to say sell, but I think it's closer than a lot of people would say for me. I think he started off pretty well. Got a lot of assists. Um, the fatigue thing, he does seem to be a bit sloppy of late. I definitely keep him. I'm not saying I get rid of him by any stretch, but I do think his performances have dipped quite significantly recently. So I'd be looking at that. Maybe he could play a bit higher up. I'm not sure about him in that, like a pivot with Casemiro. But yeah, I wouldn't get rid of him.
Yeah, I think he is like a compromise because we didn't get De Jong. His
Yeah.
normal position is number 10, but he's played deeper for United this season. And the only issue I have with him is the stamina. He keeps coming
Mm.
off after 60 minutes. Now the last few games have not been brilliant by any means, but away at Forest, him and Bruno were out of this world in that game. Hopefully, he can replicate that performance in the upcoming games. Uh, we'll get on to it. We get on to Sabitzer in terms of Wolves in a second, but while we're talking about him, Sabitzer. Now this will be an interesting one.
Yeah. She would ask me couple of months into his sign-in, early February, March, I would have said 100% stay. The thing that's convinced me is I think we'd be able to get him for permanently for about 20 million. I think it looks like. Um, he is that all action. He can sit deep. He gets goals. He's quite an energetic player. There's something not quite right about his playing style. I'm not sure. I think we could upgrade on him, but it's hard to say whether we'd get the player for another player for 20, 30 million. Um, I'd probably just go sell. Just go keep.
Um, yeah, I've been torn on this one myself. I'd probably go along with whatever Ten Hag wants and not really complain about it, no matter what decision he makes. Recently, I've been edging towards just let him go back to Bayern Munich, but one goal could quickly change my mind about that. That's the kind of position that he's in at the moment. I was saying this on Twitter that I'm edging towards letting him go, but if he scores, a big goal, that would change my mind. And then somebody commented saying, he's going to get a hat trick in the cup final, and I was like, well, if he does that, I would give him
Keep
three
him for
hundred
10
pounds a
years.
week. Yeah,
Ten-year
yeah,
contract.
10-year contract. He get blank check. Would be into that kind of zone. Um, yeah,
Yeah, that's a bit of a not quite clear cut, that one.
Yeah, it's really hard to know what Ten Hag is thinking about that one. Yeah, because he can get goals and he can be brilliant in certain games, and in other games he just doesn't. You don't even notice he's playing. So it's a hard one. But he'd definitely be a good squad player. But the problem
Mm,
is the reason why he came to United was to avoid being a squad player. So that
exactly. Yeah. He seems to be happy. He says he's happy at Man United. Obviously, we don't know what his happiness is like in terms of playing. Obviously, going to next season, we don't know how far down the pecking order he'll be. But yeah, I think I'd just go keep.
well, I would definitely rather have him than Fred. So Fred is a sell for me. What's your opinion?
Um, yeah, again, we seem to have a lot of these players who can produce a really good performance and then just totally let us down in the next game. Was it against Tottenham where he came on and he was probably the worst substitute of all time?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I think I'd only sell one of Fred and McTominay, and I think it would be McTominay. I think Fred has got those performances in him at a slightly higher level than McTominay. I think he's, I don't know. I suppose they're both more like industrious players, but I think I'd just go keep with Fred.
Um, I would rather sell them both if possible, but I'd settle for selling one of them. I really want to move on from these two now. They kind of
Mm,
remind me of the Solskjaer era. Notice that Ten Hag very, very rarely plays them together.
yeah,
He, he was obviously watching United before he took up the role as manager, and he seen that them two were not doing the business. Playing together in a midfield pivot. He's very, very reluctant to play them together. Um, Fred usually plays alongside Casemiro, and McTominay usually plays alongside Ericsson or Sabitzer.
mm,
Um, yeah, I would sell both of them, but
yeah.
if I had to, I think McTominay would be more valuable. So I would, if I had to choose one, then it'd be him.
It's a tough
And
summer because we don't know, with the takeover bid and the budget. It just, in an ideal world, you'd sell both of them and upgrade on both of them, but
yeah,
I can't
because
see those changes happening.
they wouldn't any of the other top teams, you know, they wouldn't get in their starting 11. That being said, Newcastle want them, which is beyond me. But if we're able to raise cash, and get somewhere in between 25, 30 million for him, that would be excellent business, and uh, hopefully Newcastle maintain their interest.
Yeah, I
Um,
can see that type of money coming from Newcastle. To be honest, 30 million, I can see that.
you'd think they'd be looking for someone a bit better, but I'm not going to complain about it. Anthony,
Yeah, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think he scored some good goals for us this season. Very, very raw. He's going to have to work on the right foot because it's so frustrating watching him on that left foot. The keeper knows exactly what he's going to do every time he, goes to pull the trigger. Um, there's been a few games where we definitely miss him when he's not there. Um, he's got a lot of work to do, a lot of improvement to do, but I think he could become an important player for us. I'm going to say keep. Obviously, signed him for a lot of money as well, so I think he's worth giving another season. See how he gets on.
yeah, definitely. It's only his first season, and yeah, we have to give him a chance. And I think he needs competition down that side. I don't want him being guaranteed a place every single week. It seems to be the case at the moment. But while we're on that topic, Ahmad, I would definitely keep him next season. What do you think?
But yeah, it's a step up to the Premier League. But he's had it's probably one of our most successful loan deals we've ever had. We've ever had, I think. Was it the highest scorer? I think in money. Sunderland's highest scorer.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, he's same with Palistri. They both look. I'm surprised they haven't been given more of a chance actually. But yeah, Diallo looks like a could be a gem. Definitely bring him into the team next season.
yeah, and if he's there as genuine competition for Anthony, that could push Anthony to get even better. We've seen that work on Luke Shaw quite a lot in recent seasons. So yeah, and if Anthony doesn't do it, then Ahmad can come into the team and he get 13 goals and 4 assists for Sunderland.
Yeah.
Ironically, his no move to Rangers was one of the worst in
Mm.
terms of United loanee, and then completely turned around and became one of the best loanees
Yeah, he
at
just
Old
didn't look
Trafford.
physically up to it in Scotland. I was kind of worried about what we signed for 25, 30 million there. But yeah, he's been brilliant at Sunderland.
Yeah, and he's chomping at the bit to play for Man United. That has been a
Big
dream
time.
of his from a very young age. So Palestri, like you, I'm confused as to why he doesn't get more minutes. And I would definitely keep him, but I'm not convinced that's going to happen. But forget about what the manager thinks. Would you keep or sell him?
I'd keep him. Yeah, um, he looks like one of our best technical players. He's so good. It's like close control, ball at feet, going on the dribble. In his quite a few cameos he's had now, where he's had very little time to make an impact. He has made an impact. He seems to create chances all the time. I'm bemused, to be honest, why he hasn't been given more of a chance, especially with some of our forwards scoring, creating nothing. Definitely deserved more of a chance.
Uh,
Definitely keep.
I've yet to meet anyone who disagrees with that. A couple of obvious ones now. Bruno and Rashford, I think both keeps, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, Rashford's just had a brilliant season. He's dipping off a bit now. Hopefully, he can break that 30 goal barrier tomorrow. But yeah, obviously, keep both of them. I'm not sure about Bruno in the middle long term. I'm not sure his ball retention. I think I mentioned this on Twitter a few times where I'm not sure like his ball retention is quite good enough in an Eric Ten Hag team. I think he might be pushed out wide, maybe in that right hand spot if Anthony doesn't perform sometimes. But then the problem is he's so good creating chances. So he'll probably stay there. I can't see him. I can't see my vision coming to life anywhere on the right. But I don't know. It just didn't seem like a Ten Hag midfielder. But obviously, keep him. He's been brilliant for us.
um, he he obviously his natural position is in the middle. He's done well on the right. One place I don't like him is on the left. Some of our
Oh yeah,
defeats have come when he's played on the left, notably the 7-0. He played there against West Ham as well. So I don't mind where he plays as long as it's not on the left. I'd rather see him up front than play on the left, to be honest with you. Um, but in a couple of recent games now, probably going back 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think it was the Everton game was one of them where he's playing deep in the midfield. It might have been when Casemiro was suspended, but some of his long range passing from deep was out of this world. So he's got that in his locker as well. So
oh yeah, for sure.
perhaps
Yeah,
what he needs to do is hold down a position, whatever that is, rather than being constantly moved around all the time. It's
yeah,
probably not good for the player.
yeah. Obviously, I think we see him as a number 10, kind of like or the furthest forward in the midfield three. But I just like it when he plays on the right. I just like the control we bring in with the extra midfielder. Say it's like Ericsson, Casemiro, and Fred. I just like that. If we see more able to keep the ball in that scenario, as much you obviously you can play Bruno against the Fulhams, the Bournemouths, these teams, the Wolves. Um, that shouldn't be too detrimental to how we play. But in the bigger games where we just seem to just fall apart in trying to keep the ball, I think he's better out wide, and when we bring in that extra midfielder in the middle, just seems like a more balanced setup to me.
Yeah, I think Bruno on the right has been reserved for a lot of the big games, notably Manchester City at Old Trafford, a game which we won with
Yeah,
Varane and
exactly.
Shaw,
Yeah,
Shaw at centre back. So hopefully we might see that again. Hopefully we win that game, obviously, and we might see Bruno on the right in that game, an extra midfielder, to try and smother Manchester City, and we'll probably see Varane and Shaw at centre back again. So yeah, definitely a keep in terms of Bruno. Now I think this is going to be, well, not quite a sell, but I think it's going to be a let him go. Food Faghorst.
oh yeah. I probably got some embarrassing tweets about Red Horse going back a few months. I thought he was going to be. I knew he was that workhorse forward. Um, I thought the loan would be a success. I thought he'd press well. I thought he'd, lead from the front press in. I thought he'd grab a few goals, but Was it 2 goals and then in the league? He just doesn't look like coming close to scoring when he comes on. He just gives us nothing really. I'm surprised by, given his height, how poor he is at headers. Um, yeah, it hasn't been great, and I'd be more than willing to let him go, unfortunately.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. And here, this will be an interesting one. Jadon Sancho.
Yeah, it's probably the toughest one of the lot. He was. I watched a lot of him at Dortmund, and he was absolutely brilliant. Um, the summer before we signed him, I had hoped that we'd sign him that summer, the summer before we did, and it didn't happen. Now we've got him. He hasn't really produced anything in 2 seasons. His time's running out, to be fair. Maybe he's got one more season left to prove what he's got. He's such a he's got such potential. I think for that reason, I'd say keep. But his time is absolutely running out because he just hasn't produced.
Yeah. If he gets one more season, then that's surely the maximum time that he's going to get. Um, from what we've been told is that Ten Hag is running out of patience with him. But because you know we need to have a squad, and other players will be leaving this summer, we might keep him there. Because we've had so many injuries in forward areas, so we wouldn't want to decrease our numbers in those positions. So maybe he will stay on for that reason. But if he's there next season, I don't see him being a part of the starting 11 on a regular
No, he'd
basis.
definitely have to work his way into the 11. Yeah, it's just I can't believe how incapable he seems of beating a man when he did it so effortlessly at Dortmund. It's just I can't believe how quickly that's disappeared from his game.
Yeah, he stops and passes it back, doesn't he? It's so frustrating.
All the time. Yeah,
This will be an easy one. Anthony Martial.
yeah, easy sell. Sorry, easy sell for me. I think he's got 4 goals in the Premier League, 7 in all comps. He just it's a strange one because pre-season again he looked really up for this season. I think it was the Liverpool game pre-season where he grabbed a goal or two and he looked like he was going to have a good season. To be honest, he looked fresh. He looked up for it. Uh, First couple of games of the season, he looked the same as well, and then it's just well, how many injuries he had as well. Just doesn't seem like he's been available all season.
Yeah, he has scored 9 goals in 3 seasons. For a number nine, that's brutal, isn't it? So, we should try and move him on. But I'll be worried that
Yeah.
first of all his wages, and secondly, who's going to want to sign a croc. Um, hopefully somebody will take him at the end of the window.
Yeah, maybe it's a case of paying some of his wages to go to another club. I can't see many clubs paying that, and he tried in La Liga as well, didn't get a goal for Sevilla, so just have to hope there's a team out there that'll give him a chance.
Yeah, it could end up being like an Alexis Sanchez situation where we're kind of, you know, golden handshake, to get rid of him.
Yeah,
um, Garnacho, it's an obvious one, isn't it? He stays.
yeah, could be an absolute superstar, couldn't he? Yeah, glad he's back for tomorrow. Um, Hopefully he get a goal tomorrow. Yeah, he looks like an absolute superstar. Definitely keep.
Um, Phil Jones.
Wow, how is he still there?
Yeah, I think he's finally going to be released in at the end of the next month. Dean Henderson.
Um, I do like Dean Henderson, but I think he kind of it feels like he burnt his
Or
bridges with the club last summer. Um, Obviously, he hasn't been playing really this season at Forest. Obviously, Navas came in. Um,
he's still injured.
he's still injured, yeah. Maybe there's a player in there, but I'm gonna have to say Sal.
Yeah, and I think we would get decent money for him as well. Although I believe he's not going to be fit to like the 1st of August or something. So that doesn't really help. Brandon Williams, that's an obvious sell for me.
Yeah, he's never really kicked on from. He looked good when he in his debut season, but don't think he's quite up to the required standard. I think obviously the fullbacks we've got on the left, I think Malassi is a better player. On the right, we've got better options. Yeah, I think it's time to move Brandon on. Yeah,
And Donny van der Beek.
another player I did like. I just can't see how it works from here. Not sure how much money we're going to get for him either. To be honest, maybe goes back to Ajax. I'm not too sure about that one, but don't see it continuing at Man United. So sell.
Yeah, I think Ajax probably is the most obvious destination. Um, Probably the only club that'll be willing to take him on. Given how poor he's been and the injury record. Um, Probably the only club that would qualify for the Champions League that would take him on. Let's put it that way.
They are in
It-
danger of missing out. I think they're third or fourth,
yeah,
aren't they?
I think Fahrenheit going to win the Eredivisie. It seems.
Yeah, yeah. And Van
Um,
Nistelrooy having a good season with PSV as well.
yeah, they won the cup, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
Beat Ajax in the final, didn't they?
Yep.
Yeah, they're not having their best season. But yeah, if Van der Beek, if he didn't go to Ajax, I mean, he'd be looking at the Championship or something. To be honest with you, given how poor he's been, he didn't even do much at Everton either.
No, he didn't. No, no, another bizarre one because he looked like
A world
a
beater.
real player at Ajax. Yeah,
I mean, he was nominated for the Ballon d'Or when he was at
he
Ajax.
was. Yeah, it's crazy how these things change.
um, Jack Butland, he's such an irrelevance that it doesn't even matter whether he stays or goes.
No, I think we can give him back. Yeah,
I think his contract is up at Palace, so if we wanted him on a free, we could take him. But when is the last time he was a first choice goalkeeper? That's probably why De Gea has not been dropped, because Butland has played so little football in the last 4 years.
yeah. Surprising, isn't it? Considering how he looked like England's next best thing, but yeah, for whatever reason, yeah. Um, I think there's even better, cheaper options out there. To be honest, there's probably a good few goalkeepers we could take for minimal money that are better than Butland. I think. I
And
got
I think
Heaton as well. I
Heaton's
think I'd
contract
rather
is up
play
this
Heaton.
summer as well.
Yeah, I think I'd rather keep Heaton than Butland.
Yeah, they do have an option to extend Heaton's contract by an extra year. Um, so it's hard to know. The goalkeeping situation has just been a mess for a while now.
It
We just
does, yeah.
we just don't know what the goalkeeping department's going to look like at the end of every summer window. It's always up in the air. It's been that case for 4 years now, it seems. And then we had one stage there, we had two number ones, and very very heavy wages, and that could happen again because Dean Henderson is not gone permanently, and he's going to be injured for most of the summer. So it can be another situation in August, but Dean Henderson and David De Gea are vying for the number one spot. It's it's absurd.
Crazy. Yeah. All these goalkeepers, yeah, I don't think any of them are really suited Ten Hag, maybe Dean Henderson, but yeah, like I say, I think he's burnt his bridges with the club, possibly.
Yeah, but if he's the only, if we have no money to replace De Gea, um, and he doesn't feel like the young guy at Anderlecht is worth taking a punt on, then maybe he will bring back Dean Henderson, despite what he said in that
Possibly.
Talksport interview. But I don't entirely trust him either. He's got plenty. He made errors as a United goalkeeper
He
himself.
did, yeah. He
Mm.
did. He did make mistakes, but I think he is probably the most suited to Ten Hag's play, but yeah, not quite sure on how good he is. Really, we haven't seen too much of him.
Yeah, I'm not convinced by him. I think it was at one point during like one of the lockdown seasons where he played in a 2-0 win away at the Etihad. Shaw, I think, scored in that game, and Dean Henderson was excellent that day,
Hmm.
albeit it was an empty stadium. But he's made he's made mistakes at Forest. He's made mistakes at United. Most notably for United against Sheffield United and Liverpool. He had horrible errors in those games. So yeah, and I think his shot stopping can let him down as well. I know he probably commands his area better than De Gea, and his
for
distribution
sure.
is probably better. But he doesn't fill me full of confidence either. But Ten Hag's got a big decision to make in the goalkeeping department. So I think we've got through all of them now. Yeah, that's probably about 32 players or something there that we talked about probably. Squad's not quite as big as Chelsea's squad, but it is a bit beefy and probably needs to be trimmed in certain areas. So Wolves tomorrow. Now, a lot of these Wolves United games, for want of a better phrase, can be fucking boring. They can be 1-0, 0-0, can be decided by a last minute goal. Um, they've been a bit of a bogey team. They've beaten us, as much as we've beaten them since they
Yeah,
got promoted from the Premier League. I had the misfortune of going to a 0-0 against Wolves at Old Trafford. I think it was Bruno's debut, and it was an awful game. So I can see more of the same tomorrow. To be honest with you, I can see maybe
oh,
United sneaking
for
this 1-0.
sure. Yeah, because 1-0. Yeah, who's
Yeah,
scoring?
because I don't think we're capable of scoring more than one goal. If I'm being honest with you.
Who do you
Um,
see scoring?
That's a good question. Because if Rashford is not available for this game, but he's a major doubt according to Ten Hag's press conference today, God, either it's going to be a bit of magic from Garnacho or Bruno penalty or something. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I was going to say the same, to be honest. 1-0 Garnacho. I was going to say the same.
I would 100% start Garnacho in this game. We need an injection from somewhere because we've been so flat in the last few games, and we need an injection of pace.
Yeah,
Someone who's going to be direct and run at defenses. So it's a no-brainer for me to start Alejandro Garnacho tomorrow. But I'm not. I'm 50-50 as to whether Ten Hag will actually do that. The like the last thing I want to see is Bikehurst and Anthony, or sorry, Bikehurst and Anthony Martial, in the front three with Anthony. That would be the worst possible outcome. I'd
yeah.
rather. So my front three would probably be. I would probably select Palestri, but I just know that's not going to happen. Um, so in an ideal world, yeah, Palestri, Garnacho, and probably Anthony as a false nine or something, because Martial and Vickers are absolutely useless. But in reality, he's going to have to start one of them. I don't think he'd
I
play.
think Martial will start. I think he will.
Yeah,
I,
he's dropped him recently and brought in Vickers.
yeah,
But maybe he might go back again because he's just like it's just uh, talk about a manager who's so short of options. Having to rotate them too, and there's no goals in them whatsoever. At least Faggy chases people down, but Martial doesn't do anything. He doesn't. He
yeah.
provides nothing. Uh,
I hope
yeah,
Garnacho does start. The last few games we've started well, created a lot of chances and not capitalised on it. So I hope we do go with that injection of, pace, flair. Because I think the longer it drags it tomorrow, we need to win tomorrow. Otherwise, Liverpool, could end the day with our games in hand gone. So we really need to make sure. I hope we, just go all out tomorrow. Hopefully, our home form carries us through. But I want to see that injection of flair and pace from the start. Try and get an early start. Try and nick a goal or two early on.
yeah. I would love to get an early goal. So yeah, my front three would be realistically, Garnacho, Martial, and Anthony.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
and it pains me to select Martial because he's been
Yeah,
absolutely useless. Um, but he might score, whereas Veghorst will definitely not score. Let's get
that's one way to look at it. Yeah,
it. Martial has about a 1 in 5 chance of scoring, and Veghorst has a 0 and 0 chance of scoring. Um, yeah, wasn't it even the Netherlands played Gibraltar? I think they won handsomely by a massive scoreline. Um, and Dutch journalists can be quite direct. They said that Veghorst he could have played for another 48 hours and he still wouldn't have scored or something like that. And said that to his face.
Wasn't it only like I think it was quite late in the game and it was only like two or 3-0, and I was quite surprised. I was like, how have they only scored two or three against
Yeah,
Gibraltar? And they had like 80, 85, 90% possession, and then obviously, yeah. Oh, Veghorst up front, that's why.
yeah. And they got was it 6 in the end? But I
Yeah, not sure
th-
the final score.
I think
Not sure.
they had something close to 30 shots on goal, 85% possession, as you say. But Veghorst did not manage a goal in that game. I mean, if he can't score against Gibraltar, what hope do we have? I mean,
Yeah, he doesn't look like offering anything, does he? Again, I was surprised how poor he's been eerily. Like even when we played Barcelona, he was losing headers against Gavi and Pedri. You know,
yeah, he's not even good in the air. I mean, the only thing he's got is his pressing, and that is
Mm.
about the height of it.
And
Um,
fair play, he's good at that. He goes all the way back. See him at right back sometimes. Taking out the attackers, but yeah, the goals non-existent.
yeah, it's absolutely terrible. So what's your prediction for tomorrow then? I'm going to say 1-0 United.
Um, I was gonna say one. I'll be optimistic and I'll go 2-0. 2-0 home. Our home form's been brilliant. I think it'll be very nervous tomorrow, but hopefully we come up with a fast start. I'll go 2-0.
I think if we're going to get 2 goals, we're going to have to get a penalty somewhere along the line.
Oh, 1-0 then, because we ain't getting a
Yeah,
penalty.
yeah. um, the good thing about Wolves is that they're mathematically safe, so they might be on the beach. Some of the players might be thinking about what holiday
Fingers crossed,
destinations
yeah.
they're going to be booking this June. So hopefully their minds are not quite as focused as they would be if they were in a relegation battle, and that will help us. Sometimes when teams can be on the beach, they can get blown away. Although I still don't think we're capable of blowing anyone away this season.
No,
I mean, their goal difference is absolutely horrendous, isn't it? Was it
it
plus
is,
eight
yeah.
now? I mean, that is like the goal difference of a team that's like 14th in the table. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, hopefully we can capitalize on that with, obviously all of our fixtures now, they're all safe. They're not, I don't think any of them are fighting for anything really, are they? Bournemouth, Fulham, Chelsea.
No, and 3 out of 4 are at home. Our home form has been immaculate, and away form has obviously been dreadful. It'd
Mm,
be nice to get an away win under our belt though at Bournemouth. But yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Actually, none of these teams are playing for anything, so we should still be favourites to qualify for the top four. If we can get 4 points ahead of Liverpool, before they play on Monday night against Leicester, then that might deflate them a bit.
mm.
That's guaranteed 3 points for them probably on Monday night because even though Leicester are in a relegation battle, they're absolutely hopeless.
Yeah, I don't see Liverpool slipping up at all, to be honest. I think we're going to need those 9 points.
Yeah, we need to get all we need to do is win 3 of those 4 games and we're in. Liverpool have got Aston Villa, which might be a tricky game, but they've kind of tailed off a wee bit as well, haven't they?
Yeah, like I say, Liverpool just getting it done, aren't they? They look like missing out a couple of years ago, and then Alisson scores a goal to get them in the Champions League. So
Mm.
looks like they're making that late surge again.
Yeah, and they thrashed us at Old Trafford a couple of years ago as well during that running. That was the game that was postponed whenever the fans invaded the pitch, and in the rearranged game they won quite comfortably. And it played a part in them qualifying for the Champions League from nowhere
Yeah,
really. So
yeah,
hopefully that does not happen again, because I mean it'd be for us to miss out in the Champions League to any other club would be bad, but to Liverpool would be 10 times as bad. Like you'd be
yeah.
the worst possible outcome.
And then all of a sudden, a really good season turns into a terrible season. Really, can't miss out on Champions League football. Not from the position we've been in.
And then losing the cup final handsomely as well would be another bitter blow. But hopefully we can do both. We can get into the top four and
Yeah,
win the cup final. But I think top four is more likely, to be honest with you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. It's still in our hands. We got, I wouldn't say easy fixtures, but on paper, three of them look as good as you could ask for, really. Fulham, Bournemouth, and Wolves.
Yeah, yeah, we should be. If we win those 3 home games, then yeah, it's job done. And even Chelsea has to be a game that we should be looking at getting 3 points in, given the
Yeah,
season that they've
absolutely.
had. I know they finally got a win under Lampard, but against Bournemouth. But us playing them at home should be a game that we should be winning because it's
Yeah.
Chelsea is just a team of individuals. It's, I mean, Todd Bowley has brought nothing but chaos to the football club, so we should be looking to take advantage. Just a quick comment here from Mickey, who says, if you could pick three realistic signings this summer, who would both of your picks be? Well, I'll say Victor Osimhen, Kim Min Jae, and Frankie De Jong, I think, but probably none of those will happen. One of them maybe. What do you
Ooh,
think?
who would I pick? Kim. I'd definitely go Kim. I think that looks like real good quality and value for money. Um, we definitely need a midfielder. Not sure it's going to be De Jong. I kind of like. I do like Fabian Ruiz at PSG. I liked him when he was at Napoli. I think he was available for about 25 million then, and he hasn't really been a first choice. I think he's played a few games, but he hasn't been the integral part of PSG. I think he's a really good option. And then up front, I think we've got to go big. It's got to be Osherman or Kane, I think. And I think I'd just go Kane for just guaranteed goals. So I'd go Fabian Ruiz, Kim, and Kane.
Yeah, wouldn't complain about that one bit. Do you think there are any other options at number nine? Do you think we go for maybe a Ramos or I don't know?
Um, I'm not sure about that Ramos. I think the World Cup is he's one of those ones you should stay away from after a decent World Cup. His form really seems to have dried up. Um, Number nines, I think the Canadian forward Jonathan David. He's having a really good season. I think he's looks to be a real decent forward.
What about
Um,
Ivan Ferguson? Is it too early?
um, I think he's first choice. Yes. Um, I think we should look to sign him though. I would definitely not say no to that. Looks like a real talent there. I just don't think he'd be enough on his own. That's the only problem. With the budget, we've obviously keeps coming back up, but I'm not sure we've got the budget to sign him. And then one of Kane, Osherman, one of those.
Yeah, but if we blew our budget on on a midfielder, then maybe we would have to sign a cheaper option like Ferguson up front. But at the moment, we really have no idea who's going to bring in. I think there'll be a surprise in there somewhere. In one of those key areas where we're going to sign a player, I think someone will come in who we haven't talked about at all.
Oh yeah.
There's always a
Oh
surprise
certainly.
every summer. I mean,
Yeah.
Casemiro is the obvious one from last year. Where did that come from? You know?
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe we got him. I couldn't believe we got Varane either. The absolute Rolls Royce players.
Yeah, what Madrid player are we going to get this summer? Benzema. Now there would be a story. Um, but again, we're all signing veteran strikers, aren't we? We need to sign someone who's about 25 for a change.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
This fits the Oshman mold.
that I know I
Um,
said Oshiman and Kim and Jay, but I don't think we're going to sign two players from Napoli. I don't see it happening.
that's a good point. Yeah. He's going to be steep money as well, neither because obviously Napoli themselves signed him for 70, 80 odd million. So
Yeah, it's
that's
going to
going to
be
be
upwards of a hundred,
yeah,
million. Yeah, and I think I know it's sometimes it's just a way of trying to get more money, but the Napoli owner has said he's not for sale. I know that can be like a negotiation tactic,
yeah,
but uh, yeah, I don't think they're going to want to sell too many of their squad this summer. If they sell Kim and Jay, then they might want to keep the rest of them. But let's see. So, and Kane, I think it's going to be hard to get him out of Tottenham, given Daniel Levy, and
yeah. And notoriously difficult to get players out of there. Yeah,
I haven't signed anyone from Tottenham since Dimitar Berbatov, which is a lifetime ago. So that's going to be challenging. It'll be interesting to see who the striker is going to be. It needs to be someone who's going to guarantee 20 league goals, I think.
Absolutely,
Um,
yeah.
okay, we have talked for 1 hour and 25 minutes, which is probably the longest podcast I've ever done. So I think we're going to wrap it up there. If everyone could please subscribe to the show, smash a like on the video, and get your comments in down below. And Jamie, thanks for coming on again.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. Yeah, great chat. Yeah, it's flown by. Cheers.
It has, yeah. And I'll probably see you at some stage during the summer transfer window. No doubt there'll be plenty to talk about.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I'll be back. Cheers, mate.
All right, see you later.
See ya.